Justin Fields finds himself in his first real true test here this Sunday against the Chargers. Also, the Steelers continue to be bitten by that injury bug, and it really stinks, especially for the special teams side of the ball. And we're going to dive in here and give you some of these maybe keys to victory here on a Thursday ahead of our Week 3 matchup in the city of Pittsburgh. Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Let's dive in here again on a Thursday, just ahead of a Week 3 matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers, a hardball coach team. And that's why I said Justin Fields is going to have to beat the Chargers with his head. What do the hardballs like to do? They like to take your best player, your best weapon, maybe even one or two of them, really neutralize that player and make that quarterback really think, really beat them with his arm and his intellect. And that's what Justin Fields has to do this week. This is a week Justin Fields has to take a monster step in his growth. He is going to have to really understand the Chargers defense and really break down and find where you are going to have some of these players open. Some of these players that maybe not necessarily have been involved so far this season. And that's what it's going to take to win, utilizing players that you haven't normally used just yet. And that might make Justin Fields a little bit uncomfortable because the chemistry just isn't there. He's been relying on a George Pickens, perhaps not as much, but he needs to rely on a Pat Freiermuth. The run game needs to get going. That offensive line needs to start to come together when they're going to be facing a Bosa. You're going to have to really be on top of your game. And there's so many factors involved with this offense being successful this week. Again, the offensive line has to be schemed up correctly. They have to understand their assignments. They have to recognize where they are going to need help against a Bosa. They are going to have to remember how to get downhill, hit to that second level to understand how this run game is going to be effective against this Chargers defense. Again, Justin Fields is going to have to be special this Sunday. Then you look at the Steelers defense, possibly facing Justin Herbert. We'll see what happens there with his injury. But the Steelers defense needs to continue that trend of being special here in Week 3. There's so many factors, guys, and then you look at the injury bug again hitting the Steelers. Ben Skoranek, Dirty Red, both being placed on the IR this week. What does that mean? It really hurts the Steelers on the special team side of the ball. I mean, truly. Those two were really contributing, especially Skoranek, that was coming on, man, getting activated 2 weeks in a row, really starting to find himself in the Steelers system. And boom, onto the IR. Dirty Red, a guy that plays a lot of special teams, that was also in and out on the defense here and there. Boom, that hits the Steelers. Not counting the injuries they've had along the offensive line. Now the Steelers find themselves searching for players to fill these roles. Corliss Waitman come in for the punter that we had high hopes for, and he did okay. But the Steelers, again, got to find more players. And thankfully, I got to say this. I'm glad that the injuries are hitting them early, and I hope that the Steelers start to get people back. Well, once you're on IR, it's hard to get back because that means there's some significant injury there. But hopefully the Steelers start to become full strength by the time, the middle of the season rolls around. They stay relatively healthy, and they're just getting all these injuries out of the way early. But again, guys, special teams going to be affected, and that could play a major role in this ball game, considering you're already down to a second-team punter, even beyond, a guy that wasn't even on a roster somewhere that the Steelers picked up in Corliss Waitman. Then you see how these special teams players are just getting clipped off. One good thing is you got Terrell Edmunds. So Terrell Edmunds could possibly be stepping in there a little bit, filling maybe what a little bit of Dirty Red was doing, considering Terrell's a big body or a bigger body dude, that can do some of those things that maybe Dirty Red was getting done. Ben Skoranek, you're probably going to get replaced by, I don't know, I think they call up Rodney Williams, maybe somebody like that. I'm not exactly sure where they turn to really fill his role and what he was doing. But the Steelers, man, thankfully, they're coming early, and hopefully they won't have them later in the season. That's just maybe how luck or fate may work. But again, guys, we talked about the Steelers' offense. We've talked about the injuries so far here in this show. And again, I appreciate you for stopping through. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff here for us on Mike Drop Sports. We talked about Mike Tomlin yesterday. A lot of people agreed, surprisingly. A lot of people were starting to get on board with that. But if you're a fan, what are you looking for here against the Chargers? What do you want this Steelers offense to do? What do you want it to look like? In my eyes, Pat Freiermuth, only with 8 targets, has to be utilized, has to get involved into this game plan, has to be looked at by Justin Fields and Arthur Smith during this game plan. You can't go away from him. I'm not saying you force the ball to him, but you have to start to utilize him and Darnell Washington a little bit more. Connor Hayward needs to be involved this Sunday, guys. Why? Because I think he creates an excellent mismatch for the Pittsburgh Steelers to utilize offensively. I believe if you're going to utilize Connor Hayward in that H-back type role, wing-back type player, I really think that you could be effective this week against the Chargers linebacking crew. I think that Connor Hayward definitely could win some of those battles. And if I'm the Steelers, I'm going to really utilize Connor Hayward, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth this week in order to get matched up correctly and really win here with that tight end room this Sunday. And I think that is a major key to victory, is Justin Fields and Arthur Smith utilizing that tight end room. 4 targets for Pat Freiermuth cannot continue this week. It has to change. George Pickens, you are going to have to use him. You're going to have to try to find ways to get him the football. I don't think that means bullshit passes behind the line of scrimmage. I don't think that means reverses to George Pickens. I think that means one thing: get him in space out over the line of scrimmage. Allow him to work against his defender and allow him to try to beat some of them double teams that he will surely face. And allow him to draw that attention downfield to maybe open things up for other players. Don't try to constantly be using gimmicky type plays to get George Pickens involved. I think that's a mistake, and I think that's one in which the Steelers hopefully learned their lesson so far in this young season. Gimmick play is okay here and there, but not all the time. I think also when you see George Pickens getting downfield, maybe drawing some of that attention, this is a game where you're going to have to see Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin. Maybe perhaps even the emergence of Roman Wilson, whom we've not got to see yet. Maybe he steps up and starts to really produce. But you are going to have to see out of that trio, even Scotty Miller, you're going to have to see out of those guys a big day Sunday. And Justin Fields is going to have to look for them. He is going to have to anticipate and get those guys open, throw those guys open. Because it's imperative this week, this Sunday, that the Pittsburgh Steelers really, really start to utilize their whole offense and not just a couple players. Again, guys, Justin Fields isn't going to win this game this Sunday without his mind and without being able to anticipate and understand what the defense is doing, man. He has to be able to do that. This Sunday is very important, like I said, for a monster step forward for Justin Fields. It has to be done. He has to start to find some of these receivers that aren't named George Pickens, has to start utilizing that tight end more than 4 times a game. And I really, truly believe that the Steelers are going to need to come out with about 25 to 30 passes in this game to start to open up that run game. Because the more you just come out there and throw the ball 20 times perhaps, or less, whatever, that just allows the defense to stack up against you and know what you're going to do. They know you're going to run the football. They're going to stack and load the box up. You have to be able to loosen this defense up this week against the Chargers. You have to be able to show a little versatility. And I think that's what I'm looking for most. Yes, we'll give our real keys to victory, our breakdown on Friday, tomorrow, during the morning show. That'll be all about keys to victory and success. But this morning, I really wanted to talk about that, loosening things up, gaining confidence in all aspects of the offense, and really starting to utilize the system in which hopefully is in place. And again, Mike Tomlin has to take his thumb off of this offense. He has to allow Arthur Smith to call a game without his interference. I think that is of utmost importance also. All right, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up. But again, the injuries to special teams contributors, players that play elsewhere throughout the game in certain situations, to the IR. Dirty Red, Tyler Medikevich, and Ben Saronic, both on the IR. What will the Steelers do to replace them? I believe Rodney Williams will be one. I think Terrell Edmonds will be utilized a little bit. So yeah, that's a major, major blow, guys, and something you really need to pay attention to, because the special teams units are not full strength at this point. They are not even close. So yeah, pay attention to that Sunday. Also, pay attention to Justin Fields and how he is able to process and maybe take a giant leap forward here in week 3. And I truly believe the Steelers can win this ball game, but I think there's going to be a lot of variables that really depend on Justin Fields and Arthur Smith. I think those two guys are the true keys to this football game, if you really break it down, because those guys have to get the job done. So until tonight, I apologize. Last night I didn't get home until way late, so there was no time to fit a show in. But we will be back tonight, regular programming. You can bet on that. So we will be back with Steel City Live tonight. So make sure you join us at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the show. Also, thank you for joining us here on our daily upload. Until tomorrow, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace.